This is the New York Police Department's Bomb Squad. Part human, part dog, part robot, all one team.
Lethal and indiscriminate. To disarm one is to save countless lives.
NYPD Bomb Squad has given the all clear.
One reason the members of the oldest and biggest bomb squad in the United States are unique.
Bomb Squad was able to safely remove a device.
When you don't see them, the NYPD Bomb Squad is always watching for that unsuspecting threat.
NYPD Bomb Squad racing in, then hauling away another suspicious package.
Package has been properly identified.
You're listening to Tales from the Boom Room. Profiles of the NYPD's arson explosion bomb squad. I was just playing around with you guys. I wanted to keep you guys on your toes. I know I said I would start at 7. I was lying. Anyway, welcome to another episode of the Mike to New Haven podcast. I forget the count. I think it's episode 196. That's what it is. On the March of 200, if you haven't checked out 195, that, of course, was with retired NYPD Lieutenant Kevin Sherlock, who spent most of his career at One Police Plaza, was in missing persons, ran the 2-5 detective squad as well in Harlem, and most notably, of course, at the end of his career, was in command of the missing persons unit. And I was about to file a missing persons report for my next guest, but we don't need to do that. Again, he was keeping you on your toes too, He was making sure that you guys were ready, and he put in a nice little last-second juke move there, but he's here rocking a great shirt from the NYPD Bomb Squad. He's worn many hats in his career, of course, across patrol, across the emergency service unit, of course, as a member of the NYPD Bomb Squad, and currently an employee with the Secret Service. He enjoyed a fruitful 23-year career with the NYPD, a native of the Kingsbridge section of the Bronx, section of the Bronx, New York City. Joined the NYPD in 1994, retired in 2017 out of the Bomb Squad for Volume 25 of Tales from the Boom Room. Profiles of the NYPD's arson, explosion, and bomb squad. We welcome retired NYPD E-Man and Bomb Man, Mike García. Mike, welcome. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well. Good to have you here. Apologies for the audience. I know we're a little late, but it's okay. Things happen. But the point is, we're here, we're on the air, and we're going to have a great show. So first question. I mentioned you're from Kingsbridge now. My buddy Dan McNally, our mutual friend Danny's out of Kingsbridge as well. So tell me about growing up there.
Well, first of all, I turned around and joined the New York City Police Department and took the police department test, and I passed it. And Mayor Dinkins said that he wasn't gonna participate in any other forward exams of actually basically putting people in forward exams on basically putting people towards participation in just basically giving them jobs. And so I just waited until the United States Navy actually called me and actually offered me a job.
Mm-hmm. So you were in the Navy for a while, and I mentioned that before. That kind of plays into police work, or if you go into the fire department, same thing, because the structure is somewhat similar, not completely similar, but both organizations function as a paramilitary organization, and they really like the guys who are squared away, who have that background, because it serves them well, especially if they end up going into the specialized units like ESU, like the bomb squad, as we'll talk about as we go. So for you, going through first of all, take me through the training to get into the Navy, because even if you're not necessarily something like a Navy SEAL, it's not exactly a day at the beach, no pun intended.
No, it's not. What I did was, first of all, I went through the Navy, and I went through career school, and in fact, I actually tested high in going into submarines. And when I went into submarines, therefore then I went into another school in fact where they actually tested me high in going into logistics.
Mhm.
And then after that school, I went into submarine school. And then when I tested forward on that, I went forward, and I was able to actually go into naval submarine school.
Mhm. So being in submarine school, you go through that for a while, you work out on the sea, and you get out, and that leads us into taking the test. I mean, originally they weren't hiring, but in 94 they were. You get on right before that merge, of course, of the three departments, and you start out, I think, in the Bronx, I believe. You had some time on patrol, you had some time in anti-crime, and, you know, we had a few conversations off the air before you came on, and we're talking with retired NYPD Bomb Squad Detective Mike Garcia for Tales from the Boom Room, Volume 25. Those 5 years between patrol and the detective squad, not as a detective, but as a white shield, were interesting for you. And they provided a unique road to what would come later. So tell me about that stint. First, getting out on the street out of the academy, working the streets, and then
No,
working in the squad.
it was very, very interesting going to the 47 precinct, and going before that. Um, we took it, and we went to the to the street, and we we had to share radios. We didn't have individual radios. In fact,
You sure you weren't
and
working for transit?
yeah, we didn't have individual radios. We had each person had to have their own radio. In fact, and you had to go on, when you went on post. You had to stand on post on each block in the 47 precinct on White Plains Road. And you weren't allowed to talk to each other. You weren't allowed to do things um, um, with each other, and so on and so forth. We stood on each block, and we waved at each other.
Mhm.
Like hi, hi, and stuff like.
I'm alive. You're alive. You know,
Yeah, we weren't
we're
allowed.
existing.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to do the interact with each other and stuff like that. We had to just wave at each other
Mhm.
and stuff like that. And we weren't allowed to have similar radio frequencies in order to do that. That was 1994.
Mhm.
And we did that um, with each other. We responded to jobs together like that.
Teaming up at some point or another. Now, you know, I'll ask you, because at this point, was the NSU still in existence by 94, or they had done away with the
No,
NSU?
they had done away with NSU. They had done away with NSU, but they had participated in another program another procedural program that put together a another type of procedural program that you push people through.
Right. Talking
And
with Mike Garcia.
yeah, and that's what it was. It was a 2-year program. It was a 2-year program that you pushed into people, right? Where you actually developed uh an actual person into the program, into the New York City Police Department, and it was good. It was good, and also on top of that, there was a type of program that it wasn't a program. It was actually a procedural priest type thing that they actually did, which was like our our procedural program towards being, you know, being type people, and it was the best program that we ever had, and you know, like, you know, it was developed by older type people,
Right.
and we turned around, and we turned that program around, and we were able to make more money, and we were able to make more changes at sort of like 27 days of of vacation days.
Mhm.
27 days of vacation days, 20 also, on top of that, there was 2 days of programmable vacation days off, and there was all sorts of things that we were able to take advantage of,
Mhm.
right? And that disappeared.
Why?
Right, that disappeared on these. The new people don't have that.
Mhm. Mhm. Which is unfortunate because I mean, well, I mean, I feel like now, and you would know this because obviously of your 23 years, and we're talking with Mike Garcia. This is volume 25 of Tales from the Boom Room: Profiles of the NYPD's Bomb Squad. Is that it's very rigid, and it's always been very regimented. To be regimented and to be rigid is two different things, because now there's almost no latitude for the modern day cop coming on the job, especially in New York City, to where at least back then, even if there was some rough moments, not being able to talk to your fellow rookies and only being able to wave at each other like you were saying, there was at least a little bit of latitude to have some sort of personality, to kind of take a little bit of initiative, not so much so that you're not listening to your senior peers, but at least develop your own character, your own skill set. Now, I don't feel like they're really given the opportunity to do that. And it's kind of this milk toast approach that doesn't really benefit the city and doesn't really benefit the officer on a resource level and on a personal level too.
There's not, okay. But the 47 precinct was actually the best precinct that I ever found to be the best precinct ever.
Mhm.
Okay. One of the things was I worked as a midnight cop,
Mm.
as a patrol officer on midnights. My partner Tim Keneally and I stepped out and waited for the 412 precinct uh, vehicle to come in,
Mhm.
and we would discuss, with our briefcases in hand, and our patrol cap, our 8-point patrol caps on, and we would ask, like, whose turn is it to get on?
Mhm.
And we would look at each other and we go like, and I don't remember whose turn is it to get on. I think it's my turn to get on. Like, I think it's your turn to get on. Or like, okay, so it's your turn to take a call.
Right.
Okay, so like, okay, so what kind of collar do you want? Um, you don't want? I don't know. I don't know, because there was so many different types of individual collars that you could get on in the 4-7 precinct. Like let's take a domestic. Okay, that's easy, right? We'll get on the first call that comes on. No, we're gonna get on a GLA, Grand La Senora. So we're gonna run plates all night long. Okay, so we're gonna get. Oh, no, let's get a gun collar. Okay, so we're actually gonna get out of the car and actually frisk people, right? And that's the way it went. That's the way it went. What kind of collar do you want? On that scene and so on, and that the 4-7 precinct offered you all of that, right? And on top of that was the 4-7 precinct gave you like what you wanted. You could eat inside that precinct. You could go ahead and have something to eat inside that precinct. You could go ahead and sit down someplace in that precinct.
They had parking too, right?
Yeah, that was that was a good precinct.
Yeah.
To go ahead and go ahead and have something and stuff like, right? Like when I went to the
Don't be nervous.
I'm sorry. Robbery and rape squad, right? When I went to that individual response squad, right? They asked me like, "What do you want to go back to?" And I said, "I want to go back to the 4-7." And they were like, "Why would you want to go back to the 4-7?" And I said, "Because there's parking and there's a good place to eat." And
they're flabbergasted by it.
Yeah, they were dumbfounded. They were like what? I'm like, yeah, there's parking and there's a good place to eat.
Whereas, and for the context, for the audience that may not be from the New York City area or have an understanding of New York City, at least if you're not from there directly, it's very hard to come by parking. Very hard to come by that.
Yeah, if you go to the 6th precinct, you have to call in your next partner. Your next partner to get parking.
And that's in Greenwich Village, mind you. That's, for those of you that don't know, that's where the bomb squad is. So to tell you how hard it is, there you go. So if you find a precinct where it's not hard to park and where you can get a good meal, and that's not knocking any of the other restaurants in any other 5 boroughs, you stay there as long as you possibly can. And notice the only reason Mike ever left is because he went to emergency service, which is a step up, as we'll get to in a second. And one of the guys that trained you, I'm going to shout out to the chat here: Jay Driscoll, Joe Maliga, Steven Zaslawski, the Pranzos, Raquel and Pete, Peter, retired NYPD lieutenant out of street crime, Darren Phillips, Christian Williams, and he'll be on the show soon, Billy Kennedy from your STS. When I said that you were coming on the show, he's like, yeah, Mike Garcia, one of my STS trainees, class of 98, 99, I believe.
Yes.
So I'll get to that now. You had an interesting time, of course, being in the robbery and rape squad. And, you had a hunt for a rapist that was pretty interesting as well. I must say, now, let me ask you, before I get to STS, that hunt, because we were talking about it off the air, and I think the audience should hear it. That hunt for a rapist that was in the area, how many assaults was he wanted for? And how did you guys ultimately get him?
He was wanted DNA-wise for 37.
37. Golly. And what helped you guys find him besides the DNA?
No, what happened was that there was a setup. There was a setup of detectives that were set in order to because we found one of the basically one of the counter stores that he basically changed most of the jewelry that he exchanged right inside of this store, right? And what happened was that he would send his girlfriend to basically give uh, most of his jewelry inside this store.
Did his girlfriend know what he was up to?
No,
Oh,
she
okay.
didn't. She didn't at all. And what happened was that that you know he sent her with one of these pieces of jewelry, and a detective who was working the store asked her, how did you get here?
Mhm.
And she said, I took the bus. And the detective said there's no bus that stops here.
Mhm.
How did you get here?
Mhm.
And she said, my girlfriend dropped me off here. And he said to her, where is he? He says he's sitting inside the car right outside. And they were able to capture him. And um, he was able to give an affirmed account of all the jewelry that he gave to that store.
Mhm.
And that was it, and that was it. And I was able to actually actually see the account of the information that he gave on how he did that.
Mhm.
He did 37 rapes and robberies.
I mean,
And
it's sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just gonna say it's one thing to rob somebody. That's not good. Obviously, you shouldn't be stealing. It's another thing to like violate somebody's dignity like that. Especially like I once is bad enough. 37 times. My God.
yes, and he did that 37 times, and he was able to give the account of what he did. And he, he he turned around and he was like he turned around and he basically told us like, hey, I did these things to these women, and I told my girlfriend that I was cleaning floors, and that I was that I I gave I loaned people money,
Mhm.
and I was able to get people to give me money back, and that's where the money came from. And he was forthright in all of that stuff, and I witnessed that, and I was like, oh my god, I like this guy gave this interesting type of information to 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 us. It gave us all of that.
Yeah. Even though he was lying through his teeth about how he
It,
was able to get that money.
court a very, 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 very short report in the New York Times that gave us that gave us that information. Kenny Boss and all of those guys went to hell. In regards to that thing that they went through.
The Aloe shooting.
In the Diallo shooting and stuff like that, and they went through all of that, but at the same time, nobody said anything about this guy.
Well, we know what the juicier story was that one that you just mentioned, and that guy kind of flew under the radar. But I'm sure that obviously those who were affected by it firsthand, either the victims themselves or the relatives of the victims, were relieved that you guys worked that case as doggedly as you did. And mind you, you guys were working it. Not that it matters if you're a white shield or you're a gold shield. If you have a case in front of you, you work it as best you can, because it's not about prestige and rank. It's about getting the job done. But, you guys, even though you didn't have the gold shields, you certainly functioned like gold shields. And, I'm sure even if it wasn't expressed directly, they were, like I said, they were grateful that you got the person that did it and that he couldn't do any more because there wasn't a 38th, there wasn't a 39th, there wasn't a 40th.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, besides Billy Kennedy, Steve Stefanakis is watching tonight. He says hi. Oh, look at Mikey, he says. And Steve, of course, a longtime veteran of both the New York City Housing Police, their emergency rescue unit, and, of course, currently assigned to Truck 10 out in Queens. And if you haven't, hopefully one day I can get Steve on this show. But by the time Steve retires, I'll be like 85 years old. So, that's Stefanakis, who was outlasting everyone at ESU. As Franco Baraducci called him, he's the king of ESU. So let's get to that. You go into the STS. You got 5 years on at this point. And, before, I don't want to gloss over the STS because we've covered the training aspect of it before. And it's interesting talking to the bomb squad guys who came from ESU and the guys who were obviously in ESU through the majority of their careers and retired out of there, because obviously they passed STS, but it's not a given. It's really not a given to get through STS. It's painstakingly hard. And we don't know the stories of guys that fail or gals that failed STS and had to go pick a precinct after it was done.
Well, there were 2 people that failed in my class.
Mm-hmm. So was it nerve-wracking? I was going to ask you.
Yeah, it was. There were 2 people that failed. There was including that when we went out into the field. There were 2 people in the field that left ESU. One person that said that he couldn't pull the trigger on a person, because we were on a job. Mm-hmm. We were on a job where we were actually standing by, and we were standing by a window. We were standing by a window, and we were ready to like, if this person came through that door, we were gonna shoot him. Mm. And another job like that, in similar circumstances, where they turned around and they said this is not for me.
Yeah, at least he was honest.
And they left the ESU. Said this is not for me, and that's it. And that's the kind of stuff that you go through when you sign up for that type of detail. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Where you're gonna go through a door, or you're gonna and that on the other side of that door there's a guy with a gun.
Yeah, and even if you have all that gear on, even if you're protected to the nines with the tactical gear, of course, the vest, the helmet, and whatnot, and you have more weaponry than that person does.
Doesn't matter.
Exactly. That's my point. It doesn't matter because the firearm is the great equalizer. All it takes is one shot. And we've seen guys in ESU get killed. I mean, I'm sure they told you about the story of Joe McCormack in 1983 that was killed in a standoff, and obviously Stephen Gilroy in 1973, 10 years prior. So there's incidents like that where, unfortunately those names hang on the memorial wall at headquarters at Floyd Bennett because of scenarios of that nature. I think Franco told a story when he was on a few weeks ago where and thank goodness for his bunker shield, which I'm sure saved you many a time as well. He came through the door of an EDP and there had been some water and Franco had slipped. And the EDP came stabbing down and started stabbing the bunker a bunch of times, and had that bunker not been there, Franco would have been stabbed numerous times, if not stabbed to death. So jobs like that, I mean, they're very delicate jobs, and that's not the only jobs you're handling. I mean, I've covered many times in my emergency service miniseries just what you guys do. And the thing about each truck is that each truck has a certain job that they're known for responding to. But I feel like there's a special variety in 3 and 4 truck, more so 3 because of the area it's in, to where you guys really do handle a wide assortment of things, but mainly it would seem the perp searches and the EDPs.
Yeah, we majorly perp searches and stuff like that where we get called, over the air, and get told like get here now, like we're pursuing so and so and we're inside this yard and stuff like that. He has shot at us or so on and so forth. And we go and we get there and we jump out and we suit up and we go. The 4-3 precinct, that was another precinct that we we turned around and actually pinned up on a door. And the Manhattan North supervisor was in Manhattan North, and he told us like go ahead and handle how you would handle that job. And I would turn to the team, and since I was a senior member of the team, I would say take that fucking door now.
Watch the language.
Sorry. Take that door now.
Yeah.
Right. They would smash that door and they would go in.
Yeah.
And we would go in and we would find a person inside there with a gun. Right. We would catch them. And that's one of the things that we would do. So sometimes the person would like barricade themselves and put type of devices in front of the door and not allow us to get in, and we would have to break the entire door down and stuff like that. Mentioning what Texas and what Florida had to do with their barricade and what they thought was a barricade and was not a barricade. Person inside their school shootings and so on and so forth. I want to tell the people over there, to be careful with the cops that they have. Okay, their cops are good cops. Okay, they're not bad cops. Okay, they tried the best that they could. Okay, they didn't know what they were dealing with. Okay, and at the end result, they figured out that they should run in and they should shoot. Okay, that was the result that ended up with
Those
their
particular situations. Yeah, and I mean, there's been a lot of situations like that over the years, even in New York, not necessarily in that to that extreme. But I mean, there was even something the year after you got into emergency service in 2000, where the shootout with that EDP in Brooklyn, where, for context, the only way emergency service will fire back in a situation like that for the audience is if there's absolutely positively no other source of action, and all other options to that point have been exhausted. And that was the case with that job. And, it's something that you guys train for all the time, especially now.
You see shots fired, right? Multiple shots being fired, right? When you don't have multiple shots being fired, that's when you go in.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have multiple shots being fired, then you go ahead and you search.
Right.
And that is a problem. That was a problem with that job. They didn't have multiple shots being fired. Okay, they had multiple shots being fired, and they ignored it. And that was a problem that the supervisor didn't really see.
Yeah.
If you saw like one or two shots being fired, okay, we got a barricade. Okay, no, but he saw multiple shots being fired, and he said, no, we don't have a barricade.
At least not at that particular moment in time. But getting back to your time in emergency, and we're talking with Mike Garcia. This is volume 25, Tales from the Boom Room, profiles of the NYPD's arson, explosion, and bomb squad. At around 2000, of course, Millennium comes in, and as I said before, I felt that was such a great time for ESU. And you're a new guy, so I will say, even though you were originally assigned a 3 truck, how often would they make the new E-Man fly? And what I mean by that for the audience is flying, of course, it's terminology thrown in ESU, meaning working in different trucks. A lot of guys will do it. It creates good camaraderie. I remember Evan Schwarner telling me off the air that guys would fly back and forth from 3 and 4 and 4 to 3 all the time. So in the early days, was that what you would do? Or would you fly to other trucks in the city?
No, I flew to 1 truck, and I flew to 2 truck.
Okay.
All the time, and it was great. It was fantastic. It was the best time that I ever had in New York City. I wish that I flew to Brooklyn, to 8 truck and 7 truck, and to basically 6 truck. I wish I flew to those trucks more than I flew to 2 and 3. I mean 2 and 4. Right? It was like it was fantastic. It was the best ideal in the north part of the city that you basically went to.
Right.
And stuff, but being in Brooklyn, and Queens, 10 truck, including 10 truck, right, was fantastic. Was to go there and realize what that part of the city was like, and stuff like that for a guy who basically like, I was a kid from the Bronx. I was not this guy who went to Queens, went to Brooklyn and stuff like that. But I got to learn that area.
Right. No, and that's a good thing for any E-Man, depending on which truck you're assigned to. Like I remember saying the same thing to Glenn Klein. I said to Glenn, "How often would you fly?" And Glenn said all the time, and he loved it, even though obviously you loved your own truck that you're assigned to. And if you could spend a lot of time in that truck, you certainly do. It doesn't hurt you to go elsewhere and to operate elsewhere because you learn that part of the city, like you said. When I had Dave Brink on the show, we were talking about this, and I'm referencing the morning of 9/11. You know, you guys were on duty for that, and he took you with him in the REP, I believe. I don't know who drove the heavy rescue down there from 3, but you were in the REP with him, and basically, I don't know who drove. I think it was him. He said, "We'll take a slow drive over there," and you guys get down there. So at this point, you're in a truck. In 3 truck, you got a guy like Dave that'd been there a little bit. I think he'd been there about 5 years by that point. You got John Latanzio's there as well. He's an experienced E-man from not only, of course, the emergency service into the NYPD, but also housing, his experience there in housing rescue. Jerry Dominguez is there. He was a new E-man with you at the same time as well. And Vinny Dans wasn't there that day. He was flying over to 2 truck with Mike Curtin and them. So it's a good squad, and it's a squad that was equipped to go down there. Wally Weaver was there too to handle this terrible emergency. So just, you guys, I guess, take me through it. Just sitting in the squad, you know, normal day, and then getting the run over the radio that a plane had gone to the Trade Center.
No, so 7 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, we got the rundown on what was gonna go on for the day, right? Vinny Dans had come in that morning and had switched tours. On top of that was Wally Weaver and Jerome Dominguez. Jerome Dominguez and Wally Weaver were gonna fly down to 2 truck, right? And you know, basically, what was going to happen was we had gotten an informational note that said that basically, you know, people weren't going to fly. You know, new guys weren't going to fly. And that was from the command at that time, and new guys weren't going to fly. Okay, so new guys weren't going to fly, so I was going to stay, and I was going to stay at Adam 3. So I was going to be Adam 3 with David. So what we were gonna do was that those guys, they left and went out to their appropriate trucks and meet up with those people. And I was gonna stay with David Brink, and I was gonna be Adam 3, and I was gonna prep the truck, the REP for that day. So I was talking to David Lutz, and I forgot who was his partner in the big truck, but I was talking to him.
Was it David Lutz or Billy Lutz?
No, David Lutz.
Okay, David Lutz. Okay.
And I was talking to him, and I was like asking him a question, and he was showing me something, and I turned around, and that's when I heard the call that a plane had crashed into One Trade Plaza. And David had come down and said, like, let's go. And I had put back the equipment back on, made sure that the doors were locked, and we went down. And we went down and we went through, we tried to go through the RFK Bridge to actually to the World Trade Center Plaza area, and we couldn't do that. We had to go through 125th Street and go through there and go through the West Side Highway, and ended up going through West Side Highway, and we ended up we actually ended up in the World Trade Center Plaza. There was 2 truck people there to wait on us, who actually took our keys from our REPs and took and parked our REP perfectly at the location. And then we walked up and we walked up to Harrison, and basically the World Trade Center Plaza, where we met up with Chief Patel, and then he said, you were team 1, you're team 2, you're team 3, you're team 3, and we were team 5.
Right. I think it was it you, Rich Hardigan, Schwarner, Brink,
Evan Schwarner, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, all of us were team 5.
Mm-hmm.
We were team 5, and he asked us to do one thing. He looked up because people were jumping out of the building.
Right. That's the same thing that Latanzio told me. Latanzio and Danny Cohn both mentioned the same thing. And I think when they had gone down, they had gotten to that, well, generally about a block or so away, but they stopped because of that reason, the debris and the people.
Right.
And they didn't go any further, which might have helped essentially save them and save you guys. Now I do have a video real quick because Dave Brink mentioned this to me, and he was saying that when they were there, he had his girlfriend, who's now his wife, was working in one of the buildings at the time. So he was deciding which building they were going to go to first. And I think he decided on Tower 1. And it's about 11 seconds in length, but this is you guys, right? So just for context, where was that? Where were you guys walking through trying to get to the towers?
And Nest.
Okay. All right. So it was an adjacent building?
Yeah. And
okay.
What happened was that we walked in, and there was when we walked into Bessie, there was a building security guard that actually told us, like, where are you guys going? And we said to him, we're trying to cut across to get across to the building, to building 1. And he said to us, no, that's not the way to go. You need to go across the street here. And we were like, how do we get across the street? And he said, go here. And he opened up a door for us and showed us the street that was going across. But at the same time, there was debris and there was people falling right there in that area, and we were like, oh my god, like we need to run across this street. And he was like, yeah, that's what you need to do. And we were like, okay, here we go, right? And timed it. We timed it to where people were like falling, and people were, and the debris was coming down, and we were like, ready, 1, 2, 3, go, right? And we and we came across that street from building 5 to building 2. And then on top of that, we skirted building 2 around, and then we heard Central say, "Get away from the building! Get away from the building! Get away from the building! The building is falling! The building is falling!" And we were like, "Hey, the building's coming down like right now!" And we ran back to building 5, and we buried building 5. And there was at least 12 feet of 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 stuff that buried us against building 5. And then you know we were trying to like basically dig our way out, and someone on the team turned around and said, no, 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 stop, 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 stop. Like, what? Like, look up, look up, look up. And we looked up, and there was light on the top of the structure, and like we said, yeah, there's light. There's light. There, there's there's stuff, and we were able to climb out of 12 feet of debris.
This is after the first collapse, right? This is not the secondary
Yes.
one. So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, John Murphy was with you guys, because I remember him saying, not to me, but in the documentary on A&E Rescue Cops, that he was like, all right, you guys have anybody that's like, a sergeant or a lieutenant that's with you? He's like, and one of the guys said no. And so he's like, okay, so I'll go with you, and we'll go together, and you'll be with me. Did you guys, and again, this is why I want to make sure I ask you, because if I don't have this right, tell me. Did you guys end up at one point, was it you, the rest of Team 5, Lieutenant Murphy, Mike Curtin's team, and the guys from the bomb squad, Ziggy Berberich, Dan McNally, Joe Dolan, Claude Richards, were all of you together at one point, and then something came down from Tower 1 and hit Lieutenant Murphy's arm and cut him?
No.
Okay.
We never joined up with them. Mm-hmm. We knew that where they were at because of radio communication. Mm-hmm. And we heard them, and we were heading towards their location. Mm-hmm. On top of that, but then when we got buried, against a building, right, and then we got out, that's when Lieutenant Murphy's hand got cut off. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, also, the person that was in charge of the fire department, I forgot.
Chief Gansey?
Justice was a person landed on him.
Was it? It wasn't Chief Gansey. It was God.
Justice.
What was that?
Justice.
Justice. I don't know if it was that person either. I know a fireman was killed because somebody did land on him, unfortunately, that morning.
Was the fire department chaplain?
Oh, Michael Judge.
Yeah, Michael Judge, right?
Mm-hmm.
He a person landed on him and so on, and we kind of witnessed that.
No, God, it's terrible.
And we kept on.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. But we never met up with Team 1 and 2 in regards to that. We were just like we were able to get through the door and then get to building 2, and then find out, hey, get back, because the building is coming down.
Mm.
And we ran back to building 5.
Mm. And that saved it, because for a while, like Kenny Winkler gave me a very detailed description of it. It was a brilliant rundown, and I don't think anybody could give a more detailed synopsis of ESU's response than he did. And if you haven't checked out that episode, for those of you in the audience that maybe are new to the show, go back and watch it. It was volume 2 of the E-Men inside the NYPD's Emergency Service Unit. And, I think one of the other teams was Dominic Amendollari's team. And I know Roger Mack, who ended up in the bomb squad himself later on, was in that team, as was Dave Norman. And Billy Kennedy, you're in the chat. If you talk to Dave Norman at all, tell him I'm looking for him and to give me a call. So you guys survived that. Nobody could really find out where you guys were. You finally get yourselves accounted for. But, of course, it comes at a devastating cost, because you learn that Vinny's missing. 14 guys in total, obviously, but Vinny from 3 Truck, Vinny's missing, Jerry's missing, and Wally's missing. So, unfortunately, those men did not survive this. When you look back, even if you didn't have the chance to work with them long, there was only a couple of years there, from 99 when you got there to 01 when this happened. Those 3 guys, they were great guys, great E-men. What are your fondest recollections of them?
Well, with Wally, I did many entries with him, and he was pretty much the driving force of, like, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this, you got to do that, and stuff like that, and you're gonna end up inside the A team, and you're gonna do this, and you're gonna do that, right? Like that, and with all those other guys, they were just like they were just like friends. They were like terrific people. They were like guys who like basically told you, like where to go. So
yeah,
where to get your stuff from, and it's like they were great guys. They were all of them great guys.
Yeah, I've read a lot about them. I would have loved to have spoken with all of them, but I mean, the guys that I especially get a kick out of is, especially after reading Anytime, Anywhere, the book by Sam Katz on the year of 1997 in Truck 2. I would have loved to be sitting here with a guy like John Delara. That would have been funny, or interviewing Mike Curtin, or interviewing Tommy Langone.
Like the greatest guy to like sit next to and stuff like that, to basically trade favors with, actually, and stuff. John Delara, I mean, was fantastic.
Yeah, what an E-man, and he was. You know what? It's funny. He was a teacher too. People don't really know that about him. He was, if you don't really know his story, or you knew him personally, he was a teacher as well, but then he was a bodybuilder and an excellent one at that. There's like a photo of him. The guy's like, he was jacked out of his mind back in the day, and he was always a very strong guy. And there's a great photo when Danny Cohn was on a little while ago, who worked with them in Two Truck for a little while before he went out to Suffolk. There's a great photo of John and Eddie Torres. It was an animal job, and John was like a big animal lover. And you guys have like the nooses to pull the dogs out of, or any animal for that matter, out of really precarious positions and get them to safety. And John's, it's like a German Shepherd, and John's pulling it with all its might. And I think he ended up getting it up there. It was like stuck in a ditch somewhere. And the German Shepherd has the most annoyed look on his face, like, "Can you just get me out of here?" And he did. But yes, those were some of the things that John did. And there's a lot of great stories archived about him. So no, he was a Bronx guy. I think he started out in 3 Truck and then he went to 2.
Yeah, he did. He started out in 3 Truck and then he went to 2 Truck and then just basically like stayed there. And I was like, I was honored to like be in sight of his of everything that he did.
Oh, of course, and that's all 14 guys, and they were really the best of the best. And I'm not saying that because they're not here anymore. I think everybody that worked with them.
Tell you who's gonna tell you about that is Billy Kennedy. Billy Kennedy taught us. He's the guy who taught us, and he's the guy who knew who was gonna be an E-man or not an E-man.
Yeah, I can't wait to ask him about it. He'll be on. Well, today's the 26th, so he'll be on next Friday. Yeah, next Friday. That should be a good show with Billy. So the countdown is on, Billy. The pressure's on you, my friend. And that should be an interesting volume because he was a sergeant. He was not only a cop at ESU, but he was a sergeant too. And I think it's good that, again, like we talked about earlier, flying, you work in so many different trucks. Now, I want to move ahead now because we're at the hour mark and I don't want to keep you too long, and we'll hit on some important things with the bomb squad. So it's 2008, and by that point, you got 14 years on the PD. You got 9 of them in ESU. And you didn't think so many E-men will do. And now, it's not a given if you're in ESU that, oh, yeah, I want my detective shield, I go to the bomb squad. Some guys will go to narcotics. Some guys will go to other detective units. But a lot of them will go into what's jokingly referred to as Truck 11 because of the fact that so many E-men, are in the bomb squad. And you go there, and there's some guys that that had that ESU background that are there. Paulie's there. Our friend Perricone is there from 1 Truck. Of course, Brian Hearn, who was a 5 Truck guy, he's there as well. And that's just some of the names that have that ESU pedigree. And Greg Abate, who we're going to talk about in a little bit, Ronnie Richards, who we're talking about in a little bit, those guys are there too, and they came from ESU. So at this point, what made you want to go there? I know there's a lot of hands-on work in both units. Did you feel like because the fact that both units are so technical in what they do, that it made for an easier transition?
No, my 3rd year on the job on the New York City Police Department, I wanted to go to the New York City Police Department bomb squad. I wanted.
This is 1997.
Yeah, okay. I wanted to go there, right? Mm-hmm. And I called, and actually Ronnie Richards picked up the phone and spoke to me.
This is 97, you said? Because well, Ronnie got there in 02. Ronnie got there. No, Ronnie got there. So was
Ronnie Richards was there before that.
He was there. Was you talking about Ronnie or talking about Danny Richards?
No, Danny Richards.
Oh, Danny Richards. Yeah, okay. I thought you were talking about Ronnie. So you spoke to Danny. Okay.
Yeah, and he has spoke to me, and he told me he said we mostly take people from emergency service or from the detective bureau.
Yeah.
Right. And that's it. You gotta get into one of those 2 bureaus in order to get here and stuff. And I was like, I'd like to put an application in. And he said, well, how many years do you have? And I said 3. And he said, okay, on your 4th year, you could put in an application in. And I was like, I was like, 4th year? And he was like, yeah, but it's not going to go anywhere.
At least he was honest. That sounds like Danny, because anybody I talked to about Danny wasn't rude, but he was straightforward with people. He wouldn't BS you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Danny told me it's not going to go anywhere. I'm telling you and stuff like that. You get into ESU or until you get into the bureau and stuff like that. On my fourth year, I got into the bureau, right? And I was doing burglaries with as a white shield,
Mhm.
as a white shield, and doing burglary reports with with another detective,
Mhm.
and that, it was going from there, and then I got into rape squad, and then from there, that was 24 uh 24 months of doing that. Then after that, I got you know my basically you know the- by intervention of hey, do you want to come to emergency?
Right. And
And
that ended up being.
yeah, and then I got my first interview in emergency.
And it worked out, I guess. I mean, you ended up doing 9 years in ESU, so I didn't know you had spoken to Danny Richards specifically in '97. He must have just gotten back from Bosnia then, because he was in Bosnia from '96 to '97 on a UN mission.
But he was, and he just turned around and told me, you get 3 years.
Mm. Yeah, it's funny because if you look at his career, he actually, because they also take guys from a military background too. He got in with about 3 years into the squad because he came in on the job in '83 and then he got there in '86 and that's where he was until the day he died on 9/11. And I would have loved to have interviewed him too because what a great career he had and what a great guy he was. But so you didn't get there in '97, but you did get there ultimately 11 years later, long after a lot of these guys that were there at the time had retired and long after he had died, unfortunately. But it is nevertheless a good unit to get into. So you're there, you go, and it's kind of a parallel, right? Because you get to emergency, you get tested right away, almost right away with 9/11. You get to the bomb squad, and you guys get tested. The new bomb guys, that is, with the attempted bombing in Times Square in May of 2010. Now I know that was Greg's case. I think that was Greg's case, but just the aftermath of it.
That was actually Patty's case. That was
Okay.
actually the case and stuff like that. Greg and I, we were on the same team,
Okay.
right? And I landed from a large vehicle bomb school
Mhm.
on that day. On that day, and they called us and they told me stand by and ensure that you show up at the bomb squad range tomorrow,
Mhm.
right? Because you need to do the render on this.
Right.
And like, what's going on? That we have a bomb. We have a bomb in the car,
Mhm.
right? That that's that rendering safe, right? Right, but part of the render safe because there is um um a type of device side of a box.
Yeah, was it like a truck that this guy had? It was a
Yeah,
truck.
it was an SUV with
Yeah, it was something like that.
a truck, but it had a gun box inside
Mm.
in,
Mm.
in, inside of the inside the truck and stuff like that. And they made the SUV safe, right? They towed it to um to Rob's neck to the basic all render safe inside. So then after that, we had to basically the box, the gun box safe, and I had just stuff from Vegas, right? From that, they bring a body and I that's it.
I'll ask you, looking back on Greg and Ronnie. Well, by the time you got there, Ronnie had just unfortunately had to retire because he was sick with, I think it might have been myeloma, which ultimately took his life in 2015 at the far too young age of, I think, 45. He was very young when he passed away. Ronnie was, but with a guy like Greg, you had the chance to work with him, and you work with Ronnie too a little bit in emergency. Although I think he was a 5-truck guy, if I'm not mistaken. But Greg, he was a truck 2 guy, and then he was later on a truck 3 guy. So you worked with him for a while, and you had the chance to work with him in the bomb squad before he retired in 2010. Now, Greg, it's interesting because when I talk about the guys from the bomb squad that aren't around anymore, I do talk often about Danny Richards, which is important, obviously, because you don't want to forget him. But Greg, I want to mention here because, again, very interesting career. He was a lifeguard when he wasn't on duty as a cop. He was a very active cop. He was a good cop and just by all accounts, a good guy. So when you look back on him, what are some of your, much like I asked you with Wally, Jerome, and Vinny, what are your fonder memories of Greg?
Greg was great. I mean, Greg like basically cheered me and told people that I was Audie Murphy. That this was the best that we ever had. Like he used to tell people that about me.
Yeah, he's missed. He's he's another one that left us way too soon.
But meanwhile, this guy gave the best the best impression of what it meant and he meant.
Yeah.
Or bomb spot.
Yeah.
He gave that best impression that that you needed to live up to.
Yeah. And he had great teachers because if you look at Greg, there's so many pictures of him when he was in 2-truck. Again, who was his sergeant? He was with Mike Curtin, who was one of the senior guys in the truck with him. I mentioned John DeLera earlier. So wherever he went, he had great teachers with him. He was a canine handler for a while too, which was so cool. Yeah. And then of course that segued perfectly into his time at the bomb squad. And he's one of those guys, and granted, I don't know the total ins and outs. I know some of the ins and outs because you guys have been nice enough to let me into your world and see what you do. But as far as guys and the years they spent in the squad, he spent 4 years there before he called it a career in 2020. And he's a guy, honestly, I would have liked to have seen. First of all, I would like that he would still be around. But secondly, I would have liked to have seen him spend more time in the squad, even if he was at the end of his career, because he had the gift. He was a really good tech. And it felt like, he didn't seem like the most assuming guy in the world. But here was a guy with a boatload of knowledge that really, even if he wasn't in the squad long compared to other guys, made that squad a smarter, better, more efficient, more effective squad than it already was when he got there.
Excellent mentor. He was an excellent mentor. And that was the thing. When I went out, one time, we didn't have a team leader. We didn't have a team leader that time. And he turned around and turned to me and said, Mike, you and I are going to go out on this job. Right? And you're going to be the lead on this job. Right? But I'm going to be the team leader on this job. And cool. No problem.
Say less.
and he was like, okay, so we're going to go. Let's go. Right? And we went out on this job, and the job was like a really a really kind of like we had information on this job that was like a little bit terrifying.
Mhm.
And we turned around and I said, I'll go down range and I'll check this out and I'll get you an X-ray and we'll look at this. And he was like, yo, that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, there's a great photo of him and the rest of the guys. It's like Ray Claire's in that photo. I don't think you're in that photo because it might have been just before you got there. But all the guys at the old Yankee Stadium for the 2008 All-Star Game, and again, there's photos of him after the job in Times Square that he worked as well. And again, just a really, really smart, solid cop, both as an E-man and as a bomb tech.
Yeah.
Before I get to your retirement, 2016 when the bombing happened in Chelsea. I don't know if you were, because it happened at night. I don't know if you were working that night.
We were working.
Okay.
That was Patty's job. That was
Mhm.
Patty's job. And then what had happened was who you want to interview is Andy from from uh, from bomb from bomb and Claire's situation, right, where we teamed up with them and
Mhm.
and basically uh, because it in as as uh, uh, a midday morning like call,
Mhm.
like actually emergency, like actually like asked us like, do you guys want to come out to this? Like we don't think that this is anything but it's an explosion.
Mhm.
And we're like okay, let's go out. And we
Yeah.
went out there and we looked at the job and we were like, yeah, oh my god,
Mhm.
it's an explosion at a at a coffee shop.
Right.
And and we went about it and arson explosion. I took up with arson explosion and Patty had teamed up, had gone out and done the post blast
Mhm.
on it, and he with Greg.
Mhm.
And then I reported back to them that we knew where the bombers had gone to,
Mhm.
because they had gone to school.
There was one. There was one earlier in the day in Jersey, right? It was like in a trash can near the finish line of a race in Jersey, and I forget if that one went off or not. I think they rendered that one safe, but then the other one in Chelsea, that's the one that went off, and nobody
Oh
died, thankfully, but that injured quite a few people who were walking in the area. That's a pretty busy part of Manhattan, isn't it?
yes, and
Yeah.
we
So.
we had turned around and we found out that that the kids had gone on a bus
Mhm.
and got on a bus and gone to school.
Mhm.
And we found out what school they went to. So if Andy and I follow the trail to the school and arrested the kids.
Mhm.
And it and Greg had done the post blast on the scene and found out what they.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
and,
that was quite the
and so
job.
yeah, and it was a great job, stuff like that. It was it was one of the better jobs that we had. But that was the B team.
Mhm.
We had all sorts of jobs that went down the line, like we had a bodybuilder that had um, he was doing his his uh, his drink mix, and his 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 mixture had exploded inside of his I don't know what you call it and stuff, but had killed him.
Jeez.
And we were called to that
Oh my God.
and stuff, and we were like yeah this is the overpacked this mixture of what was trying to make and so on and so forth. And that's that's was of the of the and we were able to we were able to do that. There was Brian Hearn was a great guy who always like put stuff on the door of the kitchen door that that this is not a bomb.
Yes.
This is a bomb. He used to put pictures of stuff that that said, because, and we used to call him crazy.
The hernitic.
And we used to call him crazy, but there was stuff that he used to call, this is not a bomb, right? And one time we went to a job where my brand new sergeant, like turned around and said to me like, what is that? And I said to him, that's not a bomb. That's thing that they use to basically wave slap against the bridge. Like, that's not a bomb. And I said, yeah, that's not a bomb. Okay. And we opened it up, and sure, it said inside, it says, this is for the event of the bridge for exam for wage slap against the bridge. And he was like, "No, you're right." And I was like, "Yeah, I told you it's not a bomb." And he was like, "Oh my God, thank God."
It's good to know. I mean, listen, even it's sometimes you'd rather take a look at it just because you want to err on the side of caution. But if there's something that's generally, you're not a bomb or something like this, could be trash or
Brian Hearn told me that.
Yeah.
Brian Hearn that, and that's the guy that did that type of stuff and stuff like that. And now he's working at the airport and he's teaching people like, this is not a bomb. This is what you need a bomb.
Well, at that point, Brian was in his bag, and I mean that in a good way, because Brian at that point, God, when you got there, he had been, like I said, he'd been an E-man, and I think he'd done that for about 8 years in Truck 5. And then by the time you got there, he had about 13, 14 years in the squad. So that's John Latanzio just said it. He says passed on knowledge, and that's exactly it. Because when Brian came in, well, who was there? Dennis Mulcahy was there, and Kevin Barry was there, and all these senior guys, Brian Toohey, that were really smart themselves, 2 of the 3 former E-men in their own right, Barry and Toohey. And all that seniority from McNally, from Danny Richards, from Berberich, passed down to Brian, and here he is. The same knowledge he was getting 95, 96 when he came into the squad, he's giving it to you. He's giving it to Greg. I'm sure he was giving it to Ronnie when he just got there, and anybody else that was coming into the squad as a newbie at the time. And that's a guy. That's a glue guy, man. That's a glue guy. And it's funny to see that evolution in a bomb tech. And even you, get from when you first get there and you're bright-eyed and you're bushy-tailed, because naturally it's a new unit and it's a unit that's so unique in what it does, versus by the time you're towards the end of your career, or at least towards the end of your time in that squad, you're passing that knowledge off and you become a beacon that other guys in the squad are turning to, which is a nice feeling, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is. It is very much. In fact, in the Secret Service here, we we have a protectee that's called Pickles. That's
It caught me off guard a little bit. I'm sure there's a reason why it's called that, but
it's the vice president's daughter, and one day we get a package delivered to her, and I turn around and I go, well, that's just a regular package, bro. That's not really a box or anything like that. Bring it over here and let's extract it and let's put it to that. And they were like, why would you bring it over here? And I was like, because the UPS guy just dumped it on the floor of her apartment house. Okay, they actually threw it. On the apartment. That's not a bomb.
Yeah, it would have exploded had he done that. I mean, if it's a bomb and you're throwing it like that around, it's gonna go off. Something's gonna activate the circuit.
It's around and stuff like that, and it's been delivered through UPS. Let's bring it back and let's look at it through here. And they were like, okay, yeah, will you be willing to do that? I said, yeah, that's no problem. I'll take care of it. And I did it, and we cleared it. And I was like, there's no problem. We have a safe pack. Okay, and that's some of the things that we handle on a day-to-day basis here at the Secret Service with the residences that we deal with. So on, and I dealt with that for I think I did that for 5 years at the White House.
Pickles, baby. Pickles.
Yeah. At the White House in what we call the complex. And we dealt with that. We dealt with that within 5 years, right? With what we call the technical desk. We traded off on 2 to 10s, 10 to 2 to 2 to 6s, and so on and so forth, and did different shifts like that.
Very good stuff. Very important stuff. And obviously your expertise in that area, both and even an E-man, even if you're not a bomb tech per se, even as an E-man, because you guys handle so many of these jobs, and you'll go and assist, obviously, the bomb squad with what they need and what they don't need in those situations. There's at least a surface level knowledge here of explosives, and then you parlay that into actually being in the unit that has to defuse them. And those guys there are very, very fortunate to have you teaching them, because that's a combined of the 23 years you spent in the NYPD from 94 until you call it a day from there in 2017. That's about 18 years worth of explosives knowledge that you're now parlaying into this gig between, of course, emergency service and the training there to assist the bomb squad, and then being in the bomb squad itself.
Well, we took and we showed everybody in SDS how to basically put together a bomb suit, like basically put together a bomb tech in order to go down range. Whatever the job may be, the job may be a bomb related bomb, or whether it be a situation that was more than that, like basically like this bomb was going to go off and set off and set off some type of allergenic type of device and stuff like that. Where we knew that we were gonna have to like put certain stuff on a bomb tech.
Right. And that suit's hot. I mean, that suit's like 75 pounds to where I forget who was I joking with? Was it Paul Yurko? I think it might have been Yurko off the air, where I was saying to him, I was like, imagine it's like 95 degrees out in the middle of the summertime, and you got to put that thing on, which is hot enough as it is. I'm like, you know what? And I say this kiddingly, of course. I'm like, if you want to just blow it up, just blow it up. I don't care, because it's like a heat wave. It's a smack dab in the middle of July, like this week where it's been in the 90s, and then you have to put that thing on. It's 75 pounds. I'm like, I don't know how you guys did it, man. I don't envy you at all.
When you went down range and stuff like that, because you would see like the shirt that I have on right now, right? And then we would take this off and maybe get into a t-shirt and maybe get into shorts and stuff like that, and then get into the bomb suit itself and get in and stuff and move around and make sure that you were comfortable, right? And then go down range and then crawl up to this box or up to this package and crawl and take a picture of it. Take an X-ray of it, right? And then crawl back. And then go back up range, and then only take half of the suit off, because you didn't want to take all of the suit off. You wanted to take off half of the suit off, and then maybe stay in the pants, and look at the X-ray or the picture that you took, and so on and so forth, and look at it. And then decide what you were gonna do, whether you were gonna cut into the package or whether you were gonna actually take and use a procedural method into getting into the package, and so on and so forth. And that was all up to you, And you would take and you would like talk to people like, what do you want to do, Mike? Do you want to pan this, or do you want to cut into this, or do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And it was all up to you.
That's pressure. That's pressure. I mean, they talk about pressure in sports. I mean, like a penalty shot in hockey or soccer, or coming up to the with the bases loaded and 2 men out, and it's Game 7 of the World Series. That's all of that rolled into one, and that's the best analogy I can use. But you know what? To tell you how good the bomb squad is. Every package, I'm not talking about incidents that, the package has gone off before they got there. Every package that they've had to handle, if it went off, we would know about it, obviously. It would make headlines if a bomb goes off in New York City. They've handled every single one. And through the years, and obviously one life lost is one too many, and I'll say this and then we'll get to the rapid fire to conclude. One life lost is one too many.
Greg actually had a real package in the Museum of Natural History, where it was an actual threat, and he actually dealt with it and dealt with it. Greg Abadi is actually one of the only people that I know that has actually done that.
Yeah, no, that's something that you wouldn't hear a lot about, because remember, for the audience out there, I'll say this: some stuff you hear about the bomb squad doing, because naturally it's New York City, and if you see the bomb squad congregated somewhere doing something, it's going to make headlines to an extent. Other stuff, though, you don't. So they'll never tell you just how many calls for security reasons they will handle within a year of packages. Yeah. Sometimes those packages are legit and you don't hear about it. Like Don Sadawi told me a story about a pipe bomb he found. That was a legit pipe bomb he had to render safe. I heard stories from Eddie Hayes. For God's sake, Kevin Barry and Eddie Hayes and Charlie Epps had to defuse a pipe bomb that was strapped to a man's chest. in Queens. You get that job in Times Square, which is the real deal. Paul Yurko and Richie Teamsno, who I'll have on the show next week, had the job in Brooklyn where that was real. So sometimes they're real, and sometimes you don't always hear about it for the very reasons I just explained.
And Greg Gabati had a real.
And he did too.
A real letter bomb, and he took care of it.
Yeah. And that's you know how much you have to hate somebody to send a bomb in a letter? Well, to send a bomb anywhere, period. But I'm just imagining fitting that into an envelope, and then you send it out. I'm like, my God, man. I mean, if you're gonna do that to me, just put it under my car and just get it over with. The fact that you would go through stamping it and signing it and then sending it my way, like, God, come on, man. You gotta put that in my mailbox in this economy? That's too much work.
I know.
Yeah, there you go. So that brings us to the rapid fire now. It's been a great conversation, and you have to go quick. You're on the spot. It's 5 hit and run questions from me, 5 hit and run answers from me. You can say pass if you want. Are you ready?
No, go.
First funniest call you ever responded to?
First call that I responded to was
funniest.
Oh, the funniest call?
Yeah.
Was a dog call. It was a dog call, and the dog was angry at its owners, and I was able to get the dog in under control and basically bring it out.
Well, there you go. Second, a little bit of a different type of domestic disturbance. Second best advice anyone ever gave you?
The second best advice that somebody ever gave me on the department was not to take anything personal.
Mm-hmm.
Just always to be that, basically one sergeant said to us, you can't kill the clients. Okay, all these people are your clients. Okay, you have to take care of them.
Right. It's true. Very much true. Third most uplifting job you ever responded to?
I want to say that I was in an emergency and I saved a person off a bridge, and they said, "Why?" They turned to me and said, well, "Why'd you save me?"
And the reason and your response?
Because you're important.
Exactly. Fourth, favorite bar or restaurant in New York City?
Oh no. I just took my wife to Ceviche's and right down the street from the bomb squad. I want to say it's Barclay and 10th Street over there, but it's a real Spanish restaurant. And she wanted paella, and she said that's the best place for paella, and I took her there, and said yes, over there.
So I'll check that out when I'm down in the city. I'm working it, and Lieutenant
Bomb Squad.
Lieutenant Torrey, if you watch this, I'll text you in the coming days. I'll be down to see you soon, buddy. I'm going to try to get down to the bomb squad and pay a visit to you guys and troll as best I can. No, I'm kidding. I do want to get down to the office and visit the guys and see the cool stuff you guys got going on down there. So expect a text from me. You cannot escape me, Lieutenant Torrey. Fifth and finally,
we'll see him. We'll see him now coming with the UN.
Yeah, that's why I want to get down there before all that craziness. Either if I can't get down there in this upcoming month before that ramps up, I'll try to get down there in October after it's all over. Because you guys, September to December is always busy for the bomb squad, but especially that month of September because there's the 9/11 anniversary and then there's UNGA. which you have to handle both. So if I don't see the fellas down there at the 6th Precinct in August, I'll definitely try to see them in October. So we'll see which one works out. But anyway, that said, fifth and finally, what advice would you give anybody coming on the job now?
Coming on the job right now is remember to go to the pension seminar. Go to that right away, and also on top of that is just be yourself. Don't be anybody else.
Right.
Okay, be okay, and go where you want to go.
Okay. Well, thank you. My apologies. Go ahead.
No, that's it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. My bad. My advice out there to anybody: if you're gonna send a bomb my way, do not mail me a bomb. Just put it under my car and get it over with, because it's too much work to put it in a letter, like I said earlier. So that's my advice. Don't be mailing me bombs. Anyway, that's it. Before we go, Mike, and I'll stick around. We'll talk off the air once I say goodbye. Any shout outs you want to give to anyone or anything before we go?
No, all to the Team 5 guys who made it and stuff. Keep going, and everybody else out at the airport. God bless you guys, and that's it.
All right. Good night to Jay Driscoll, Joe Maliga, Steven Zaslavsky, the Pranzos, Raquel and Peter, Billy Kennedy, who'll be on the show next Friday, Darren Phillips out of Vancouver. Let's go Canucks. Steven Stephanakis, the ageless wonder of VSU. Bill Ryan out of the Arson Explosion Squad. Maui Swift, John Latanzio. Thanks, guys, for tuning in, and for all of you that will watch the replay, thanks to you as well. Coming up next on the Mike the New Haven podcast for volume 22 of the Best of the Bravest, interviews with the FDNY's elite. He was in New York City EMS pre-merge with the FDNY and then post-merge as well. He was at the Trade Center for 93 and 01, ran rescue operations for EMS down there. Zach Goldfarb is his name. Rescues was his game, and he'll be here this Friday for volume 22 of the Best of the Bravest, interviews with the FDNY's elite. And Christian Williams, too. Good night to you, too, Christian. Thank you for tuning in. In the meantime, on behalf of Mike Garcia, I am Mike Colón. This has been volume 25 of Tales from the Boom Room, Profiles of the NYPD's Bomb Squad. And I will see you Friday. Don't mail me bombs. Good night.